Hello and welcome to Handheld Gaming, your source of reviews, hints and tips for all things handheld gaming. Firstly, today I'd like to bring your attention to Steam, who have an Xbox Games Studio sale on, and specifically to Forza 5, which has 15% off right now. I've been meaning to pick up this game, but I always like to wait for a sale. Firstly, after downloading the game, 105GB download, this is no small game, you need to log into your Microsoft account on loading the game. At which point the game will go through an auto-detect settings process, something I've not seen mentioned on any other gameplay videos. There's no preset settings for the OneXPlayer, so the game then goes through a fairly lengthy optimization process. I left Windows in the battery saving power plan, but the turbo mode was switched on. The process all in all took around 5 minutes to complete. Forza appears to be a very well optimised game, and extracting the best power to performance has certainly been interesting when testing it on my OneXPlayer 4800U. In this video we'll be comparing the in-game recommended specs with what I've been able to extract. Today I've been using a battery power saving plan on Windows, and in some of the tests we've left turbo switched on. I'll put up a card in each clip with the exact spec we are running during the tests. As we can see, the settings automatically tuned to 1920 by 1200 with a suggested preset of low, where we're achieving roughly 37 FPS, and the game looks wonderful. However, the APU was pulling around 20 watts. This was with turbo mode on, as is the next couple of tests. I will say this is a rather long video, this episode. You may find it's worth fast forwarding to the points where I'm actually talking at the end of each stock run of the benchmark tool. Now let's do what I like to do best, getting the highest FPS for the lowest watts while maintaining fidelity. First test was to leave the recommended spec but to turn on resolution scaling and set it to balanced. This resulted in a jump to 47 FPS, and the power load remained at roughly 20 watts, so a decent uplift in performance for no extra power. The game also still looked great. The next test was what was the best performance I could extract at a more sensible resolution. So I switched down to a Steam Deck friendly 1280 by 720. Resolution scale set to performance, keeping the low preset but setting up FX88 4 times. This netted us 57 FPS. And while the screen was a bit muddy, it was the closest I could get to 60 FPS today while not making the game look like Hot Shots Racing. Power to the APU, however, had increased to 25 watts. I could certainly do better than that, couldn't I? So after a lot of testing, I finally settled on full resolution of the OneXPlayer at 2650 by 1600. Resolution scaling was set to performance, low preset again, but with MSAA set to 2 times. The turbo button is now off. So how did it do? Well, not bad actually. A solid 33 FPS, but only 15 watts draw by the APU. This is now my preferred setting. While I generally always chase FPS, especially in racing games, the trade-off here was lower FPS, but for better clarity of graphics and much lower power use. As a later added addendum here, I have noticed that when you're actually playing the game though, the power consumption does flip between 15 watts and go up to about 20 watts. So even though there is savings to be made, they can kind of be fleeting some of the time. And finally, the balls to the wall power settings. Let's see how high we can crank this before the FPS fall to unusable. We set the resolution to a deck friendly 1280 by 720 again. No resolution scaling this time and a high preset, as well as turning particle effects to high. This netted us 31 FPS and a power draw of 26 watts. Turn on resolution scaling to performance and see the APU pull over 30 watts, but then the resolution turns into Lego graphics. So what have I learned today? Well, it's clearly harder tweaking the graphics on a OneXPlayer than say a Steam Deck, but it was worth it as this AAA game can run at native resolution with a little help with scaling and a low preset, but it still looks amazing. Again, if you find this content helpful, please like, share and subscribe. Click on the bell icon so you won't miss any new content. Your support really helps the channel. My aim is, as always, to work through my game library and share my findings with the community so you can extract the most FPS bang for your watt hours. Thank you. Well done for listening right to the end. Just for that, I'm going to tell you what my next video is going to be about. The next video will be No Man's Sky,